So first of all, Happy New Year. This is rewind to a year ago, this Zoom press conference is so kind of different, but excited to have one finally. So Happy New Year, and hope you guys have had a great holiday break. And I'm just excited that we're going to play again. It's been a long time. We haven't played, and it feels like a year, but excited to get our team going. We're prepared now and ready to start playing our games.
All right, Kim, if you'd like to get us started, then we'll go with David and Troy after that.
Okay, Adia, every SID sends out these postponement emails that say we're working with the Pac-12 to reschedule. The only one we've seen rescheduled is UCLA USC. We're seeing it a lot on the men's side, but not on the women's side. How in favor are you? Are you in favor of rescheduling? Do you think other coaches are? And what do you see as problems in getting these rescheduled?
I'm in complete favor of rescheduling. We want to play games. I don't want my team sitting here for almost a month not playing. So absolutely, I've been doing everything I can. We were ready to play last week. So, it wasn't shut down because of Arizona. It was shut down because of other teams. So most definitely trying to make up those games. I think the challenge is everybody else being as able and willing to make up the games. But, obviously we heard about this weekend, stuff happens, like COVID is not fair. It's happened to all of us. It happened when we were in Vegas, getting ready to play Texas. But I think that, I think part of it is just the people in the program is wanting to make up the games. And I think that puts the Pac-12 in a difficult situation. And so I hope that we see on the women's side more games made up. And I'm anticipating a game makeup for us on Sunday. And that's in the works now, and it probably will come out today.
As far as the Pac-12 putting them in a difficult situation, do you think they should use the forfeit if people won't, because it's still on the table?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If there was forfeits, I guarantee a lot more games are being played. I think that's just the way it is, because I think there's so many variables and reasons why and different medical. I think that if we had to forfeit games, I think more games would be played, and I think on both sides. I think on the men's side and the women's side. If you're going to tell a program they're going to have to forfeit, I think people find bodies. So that's just the reality. But that's not the situation. I get that's a difficult situation too, because proof and medical and different medical. But I think you should have to do the attestation forms, and you should have to prove when you were out and stuff like that. But I think this is all a work in progress. I don't think anybody, including the Pac-12, including us, I don't think anybody thought that we'd be in this situation today. So I think it just came up fast again. We're kind of back where we were. So I think it's just getting back to figuring out a plan. But I do anticipate in the next couple of weeks more games being made up. And, we want to play. We want to play people, and we don't want to go look for non-conference games. Our conference is one of the best in the country. So people want to see our games. And, I definitely do. In Arizona, we want to play teams, and we want to make up the games we've missed.
All right, go with David, then Troy, then PJ.
Hey, Adia, correct me if I'm wrong on the timeline of how things went, but my understanding was that after the cancellation of Texas, that the girls were allowed to go home for the holidays. And I'll pose to you the question I asked Tommy the other day. Was there any thought to cancel Christmas and just say, look, with everything that's happening, we need everybody to stay here in Tucson. Let's enclose our situation so that we have the best opportunity to keep ourselves safe moving forward?
Yeah, there was a thought for that for, a long process of thought. But I think that was really devastating for all the players. And I think for anybody in athletics, if you were to tally all 600 players, I think that was one of the biggest concerns before Christmas. It wasn't them getting COVID. It was seriously the student athletes afraid that if they got COVID, they wouldn't go home. I don't think anybody cared about getting COVID because it's pretty much, right now, Omicron is pretty much a bad cold. So I think the concern honestly was the fact that they didn't go home, because you have to remember, last year our players didn't have Christmas. They stayed here all year. Players did not see their family for over a year, and it was very difficult, even mentally, for all the student athletes that were in season at that time. So one of my priorities was to get the people, obviously the people that had COVID couldn't go home for Christmas. So all the players that were healthy, we obviously tested numerous times before they departed. They were healthy enough to go home, with the chance that they could also test positive at home or catch it at home. But every student athlete, there wasn't one that wasn't willing to take that risk. So it was that important for them to go home. And it was really important for me as a coach to support that because they deserve that time off and they're kids. So mentally being stuck here alone is not what any of our players wanted to do. And some unfortunately had to do that.
Troy?
So during that time off, what do you do to keep your team ready to go?
So we're very ready. We've just practiced a lot. And, you know, our team, we get better when we practice. When we have long periods of being out, we improve. So we've had a couple weeks to get back into it. Like, are we in tip-top shape now? But no one in the country is. Everybody's kind of dealing with the same things. And you deal with that after Christmas anyway. So given a couple more days, it doesn't really affect us. You know, we're ready. We've improved on some things. We're practicing hard. And so, you know, and the good thing is we have depth on our team, so we're able to practice. It's not like we have two players where we can't ever go at it. So we always have enough to compete and go up and down. So we're ready. I think that, you know, we're going to probably be rusty from not playing a game, but I think that's how it is post-Christmas. And pre-Christmas, you're worried about everybody thinking about Christmas. So it is what it is. You deal with it, and we're a good team. And you know, if you're a great team, you can handle those things. So you have to be able to win under different circumstances. So I think that we're ready to do that.
And then before this shutdown, you had Lauren Ware that was out with the injury. What's her status and how is she doing?
Yeah, she's planning on playing this weekend, but I'm also not going to force it. She's practicing. She's in contact and practice. So our plan is to play her this weekend.
PJ?
So we need her back, so it's good. But it's also one of those things that if I feel at any point that even if she's ready to play and I feel that she's not in quite game shape, I'm not going to play her. Because for me, I'm more concerned with Lauren and her well-being. We have to be able to win games without Lauren. So is she an important part? Yes. Do we need her? Absolutely. We're better with her. But my thing is we're a good team. So that means other people have to step up. She will only play, even if she's cleared medically. If I feel and I see her and I see that, yeah, she's not quite ready, she's not in shape, I will not play her. Because it's not about me winning a game, it's about the long haul. She's someone I need in the tournament. So for one game or two games doesn't make a difference to me.
PJ and then Greg?
So Adia, can you walk us through the timeline of after the NAU game, you find out that players either have COVID or are contact traced or whatever, what that was like and how scary that was for you?
Well, so I think that initially, so we've obviously bused to NAU. And initially, you know, at NAU, everything's different. When there's altitude, you always feel different anyways. You walk, you're tired, walk into the elevator. It's just a different feeling in altitude. It's also cold. In Arizona, it's always hot until now. So I think just you feel different anyways. If your nose is a little stuffy, you're going to think, oh, it's because it's snowing and there's altitude. So I think there was a lot of that happening at first. But one thing I want to point out is our team is very responsible and we're managed very well medically. When we have any glimpse of anything, our players communicate that with our medical staff and we take care of it. Now, if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have ever even touched this. So I think that's one mature thing that I'm proud of my players. So obviously in the NAU game, we played a lot of people. No one really played a lot. So everybody kind of attributed like a little stuffy nose or coughing to the weather and to just the altitude. But after the game, the unfortunate thing is we took a bus trip that was like another 3.5, 4 hours to Vegas. So if you look at those few days, we were on a bus trip, 4 hours, 4+ hours to NAU, to Flagstaff. And then the next day after the game, directly after the game, we were on a bus trip to Vegas. So I think in that situation, that didn't help us with the COVID situation. But, you know, some people had a little bit of symptoms in that game, but just attributed it to, you know, the altitude and being cold. And so the next day, you know, people got tested and then we started having positive cases. And even myself, honestly, like a lot of times I've tested, just like, let me test what everybody else is testing because I have a family and a baby. So a lot of times when I've tested, it wasn't because, you know, I thought that I had COVID. It was just because I wanted to be safe. And so even myself, when I came out positive, I was surprised. Because I wasn't having major symptoms, but I was just like, let me protect my family, let me see, because if I get it, everybody's going to get it. So it wasn't something I expected. It wasn't something anybody expected, but it happened. So We got it. We were out, numerous people. It wasn't one person, but it is what it is. It wasn't devastating. For me, it was like a bad cold. It wasn't like I was down and out. If I had to return to work after 4 days, I could have. And, luckily the guidelines changed while I was in isolation protocol. But, the fortunate thing is I gave it to my daughter. So as a mom that has not had it for 2 years and that has been extremely careful, it was frustrating. But it is what it is. If I'm going to choose to work in athletics and I'm going to choose to work in this environment, this is what I have to do. And unfortunately, I gave it to my daughter, but she's okay. I took care of her when I had COVID, which was hard. But, I'm okay. I'm fine now. Nothing. I'd say after 5 days, I was fine. So the good thing is the protocol changed. It's very hard to be in isolation for 10 days. But
Can I
yeah, so
follow
that's
up
kinda-
with, sorry. Follow up with, I know that was sort of a fear of yours all the time, was not only for you to get it, but to give it to your daughter. How scary was that at that point that this fear had come true?
Well, so honestly, it wasn't scary for me because I thought sinuses. I really did. And I honestly thought, because as a mom traveling with kids on a bus, I was tired from that. So I thought that's what I was tired from. I was more, on one side, happier that I got it versus someone else. But, when it kind of went through our program so fast, the scariest part for me was the fact that my daughter can get it. So I isolated from her, initially, and then she ended up catching it. So I think the hardest thing was, I didn't want her to be in the hospital because all the new cases of kids under 5, they're in the hospital a lot because they don't have a vaccine. So that was the hardest thing. One night I thought that she was going to have to go to the hospital. Her fever was 104. So I went through 3 nights of that and just hoping and figuring out a way, but then she fought it. So just happy. I think now it's been a few weeks and she has fatigue, but she's okay and she didn't end up in the hospital. So, I just as a mom though, in a family, you want to protect your family. I don't care that I got it. It's just when there's someone else involved, that's what's hard, and she's a baby. And it's funny because Mateo didn't get it. Mateo was exposed by everybody on the bus. He didn't get it. So I'm just glad she's okay, and I'm glad I'm okay. And honestly, for me, the timing couldn't have been better. I was going to get it. I think it's inevitable. I think as a coach, you're in so many situations where you're vulnerable, and I don't control everybody around me, and I think it's hard. So I did really well and protected, but at this point in the way the situation is, I had no control. I mean, there's a lot of times, even if I have my mask on and someone comes to take a picture, they pull down their mask, so I'm vulnerable right there. So I think what's hard as a leader is that it's a tough situation right now, and the protocols aren't the same. So I feel like as a leader a year ago, you knew it was a tough situation. Everybody had a mask. You knew you could catch it, and everybody was on guard. I feel like after everybody got vaccines and got boosters, now no one kind of knew how it was spreading, and so it's like an uncharted territory. So you don't know how stringent to be, because if I knew it was contagious as it is now, we probably would have all on our team been wearing masks in practice 2 weeks ago. But no one really knew, and it kind of happened so fast. So now, of course, everybody has their guards up, but you don't feel like you need to until something like this happens. And now, obviously, I've already had it, so now it's it's a little bit different situation, but it's hard. And then you coach in games, you're talking to players sweaty, so you're just around your team. You're on buses, you're on planes. So I think once it goes through some of your team, it's hard not to hit 90% or 80, 70% of people. And that's just kind of how it is. You're seeing every team is going through this. And at some point, every team will go through it. So honestly, for me and some of our players and staff, I mean, the timing was better having it at Christmas, because we could have missed weeks in the Pac-12. So.
All right, Greg.
In relation to Ari returning to be honored on Friday, I've forgotten this. Did you come back when your name was put up there?
No, because I don't even know the process. I don't know if I was in Europe. I don't think anybody contacted me. I don't remember what happened. It was so many years ago, but no. But I'm assuming I was playing overseas. Because if Ariya would have been overseas, she wouldn't have been able to come. But I'm excited to have one of my players come back, honor her. It's going to be a big night on Friday, so I'm really, really excited for her.
Do you know if
Called
there's
me is your game canceled? I was like, no, thank goodness.
Do you know if there's a further process where not only will she be honored in the Ring of Honor, but her jersey will be retired in the rafters?
I don't know. That's above me. I'm not sure what the process is for that, but if that ever came about, and there's a possibility of doing that, I'm all for it because she's done so many great things. But I don't know.
Troy?
When you first recruited Ari, what did you see in her as a player at Washington that made you want to bring her to Arizona?
So I first saw her in high school in Northern California when she was like a sophomore. Really fast, athletic, tenacious, just a fighter, competitor. You know, she didn't shoot it as well back then, but you can't teach quickness and you can't teach athleticism. And off the court, a great kid. Came from a great family, had great morals and values and work ethic and all those things. So just loved everything about her from day one. She's just a great kid, someone I really love, and just someone I've had a relationship with so long and I've watched grow. So definitely when Washington had coaching change, definitely someone I wanted to go to war with and I wanted to have in this program to help lead us. And, you know, she came to Arizona with a completely different role. And she took it by the reins and she stepped up to the challenge and she just led us really well. So just proud of her. And I think that you're going to see in the WNBA, she can have a bright future and it's just beginning for her. But I'm glad that she had to face some adversity. It's not what anybody anticipates having 3 coaches in the summer, but I think now with Tanisha, I know Tanisha personally as a friend of mine. She's going to play really well for her. And Tanisha was a great defensive player. So Tanisha's going to love what Ari does because she was a defensive stopper herself. So I think that Tanisha's going to be able to extract great things like I did here with Ari at Arizona. And so I think that typically you're not testing someone who has no symptoms because you wouldn't have a reason to test, right? So I think that it's tough because if you look throughout the NBA, the teams that someone gets a symptom and they test, it like shuts down because everybody has it. People have it on every team. So I think it's a tough thing. I think it's hard to continue with sports, but then how do you not test if someone's sick? So I don't know. It's a tough situation, but I do see why they're not. And I think in the NBA, even if you go out, I think they only test if you recommend it. So I think it's just different in college. They're not professionals. They're not getting paid millions to do what they do. So I think that you do have to help them through the process more. I think it's very different if you're in the NBA and you're getting $25 million a year. If you don't want to test and go play, I mean, and you're asymptomatic, you're not spreading it. I don't know. I think it's a very different thing than when you're a 19-year-old amateur that's not getting paid to play and you have a career ahead of you. It could be changed. I don't know, but the fortunate thing is athletes aren't dying right now from COVID. They're not. I don't think that this past year. I'm not a medical person, but I haven't heard of anybody being hospitalized. So I do think that we can continue to play. I think the dangerous part is it's not as much the healthy student athletes. It's I want to, as a coach, I want to have McKale full. I want to continue to play. I don't want to miss games. We're going to try to make up as many games as we can. I want our fans to see us play. We have a good team. I want to pack McKale with 10, 15,000 people. So how do we do that? Well, unfortunately, right now, we do that by wearing a mask. Because it's not about me, it's about the person next to me. Well, I don't know their situation. I don't know if they're sick. I don't know who they have in their family. So I think in order for us to preserve our fan base here on the men's and women's side, you have to come in here and wear a mask. Otherwise, you're going to see programs shut down and not have fans, just like Stanford. So,
Are you at liberty to say the game that could be made up on Sunday? Are you at liberty to say whether that's a conference game or a non-conference game at this point?
it will be a conference game if it goes through. Obviously, mutual with both parties, but it'll be a conference game. So, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go through. It's just not announced yet. So I don't want to say something when something happens. It doesn't. Everybody gets mad at me. But I'll be looking, and if it's not a conference game, I'll be looking to make up another game. But I want to make up our conference games that we've missed. I don't want to go find another non-conference game because we have some great teams in our conference. But you're going to see. I mean, I got 3 phone calls last week. We couldn't play, obviously, or 2 weeks ago we couldn't play. But I got calls from my friends all over the country trying to make up games. So a lot of us are going to be resourceful. If we can't make up games, you're going to see us wanting to play because we don't want our team sitting for 3 weeks. So, I mean, we missed that Texas game. If we have a pause and we can't make up a conference game, I would try to make up a Texas game because I think it's good for our game. It's two top teams. It's great. It'll be a great game. So I want to make that game up. And you know, we're not afraid to play anybody. And we have a good team. We have depth, and you know, we're not afraid to play anybody in the country. And that's why I think we've got to where we are.
Okay, Kim.
We haven't asked about Washington State. What do you expect from them?
Washington State's a really talented team. The Legger Walker sisters, I love their game. I just hate playing against them. You know, so smart, so crafty, just find different ways to score. You know, Crystal really leads the team well. She's such a smart point guard. You know, I always say Washington State reminds me of a really good European team, like what I used to play in Europe, that just like finds a way to get things done. Before you look, they're hitting threes, making passes. They have such smart players that pass the right. They shoot the three. They have all the right pieces, so they're a tough team to play against. So I'm anticipating a really good game. We both play really different styles, but they have a really good offensive talent. And they're coached really well, so it's going to be a tough game. But we're excited to play them. You know, you remember last year losing at the buzzer in overtime was tough. So I think it's going to be a fun game against a really good team with everybody returning. So I'm really excited to play them. I'm just excited to be playing again. Our players want to play. We want to coach. We want to get back on the floor with a packed arena.